Hello, podcast world. Welcome to Balance Life Mastery, the show where we talk about all things high performance and life balance without the burnout. Stories, insights, and actionable tips on creating the life you deserve, giving you and your teams the unfair competitive advantage in work and personal life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Balance Life Mastery podcast with Dina and I. And this is going to be a little bit different. And it's come off the back of, again, a bit of a listener sort of question or inquiry to understand a little bit more about us and a bit of the backstory. So we thought it'd be really good to go through that and really explain the logic and also probably some of the emotion behind where the methodologies come from. We always bang on about the scorecard, how that's relevant and how that really helped us to start to progress on our journey to where we are today, and our ability to kind of give value to you guys. So I'm excited for this one. What about you, Dina?
I just hope that we don't end up making this a 2-hour long episode, because I think you and I are both beyond passionate in terms of sharing our reasoning and not just our stories, but why we believe in this and the conviction that we have in everything we're doing. So yeah, stay tuned, everyone. We promise you this was a request from quite a number of listeners, actually. I mean, it's always good to know where people come from and why they're doing something. So I guess this is our chance to share the intricate details of our journeys with you.
I did a talk the other month at Oxford University. It was for an IT conference, and it was like an innovation stage thing. And we had 12 minutes. So the idea was you had 12 minutes talk, 3 minutes Q&A. And I literally went on stage and I was like, oh, I'm a born waffler, so this could be fun. And it is that thing, like, I used to be so introverted, and actually I still am. I still need that recovery time to sort of go lock myself in a cupboard, not talk to anyone. Like, that's why I get up early in the morning. Everyone sort of says, oh, is that productivity? It's like, no, I like to get up early in the morning because I get like coffee and the dog generally dozes and I can have some headspace before everyone else wakes up. But yeah, like, I can remember days when I would not want to talk to anyone. Like, how can you spend the least amount of time in a meeting or say the least amount of stuff on a call? And then, like you said, you get on a topic that you care about and you're passionate about and can't shut me up. So which is wonderful and probably infuriating for people that spend any time with me in equal measures. So
I mean, Jeremy, at the quietest of moments, people tell me I'm loud and super enthusiastic and energetic. So when it comes to something I'm passionate about, I think you can multiply that by 10. But yeah, I mean, let's get started. Let's just share our stories and kind of how we even cross paths. And I think that might enlighten a few people in terms of our backgrounds and where we've come from.
that makes sense. So it's like, how do you tell your aha story without going too far? And mine was coming for years, and it's a really funny one. And I'll talk about my false start in a minute. But my big one was, I had this enviable life. The actual day it happened, and it's funny because you think you'll never remember this stuff, and then you sort of do. It was a Sunday morning. There was a chauffeur outside waiting to pick me up. I had just saying goodbye to the kids and stuff. We went off to I went off to Heathrow on my own, business class, down to the special hidden Virgin entrance that they have, which looks amazing. At Heathrow, you go through your private security. You don't have to talk to anyone. All your bags are taken off you, and it's like beautiful. Through the lounge, and anyone traveling through Heathrow, go to the Virgin Lounge. Like, if you're choosing who to travel with, Virgin, BA, whoever, Virgin Lounge is epic. The fact that they ask you how you like your eggs cooked, that just says everything when you compare to others. And got on the plane and had a couple of glasses of champagne because they're free. I'm in upper class, and then I just sort of see the fasten seatbelts about to come on. You can see that everyone's getting settled, and at that stage my anxiety kicks in like massively, and I'm struggling because my anxiety was around needing to go to the bathroom, and my anxiety had come off the back of just being burnt out, running to the ground, and then my mind just can't relax. So my biggest fear was like, seatbelt sign comes on, I'm going to have an accident. And some people have probably just stopped listening to the podcast at this stage, but I was to the level of trying to work out, if I had an accident, how do you cover it up? And I tell you, I haven't had an accident since I was a kid, so it's not like this genuinely ill person that's struggling. And at that moment, I just sort of text my wife Katie and text her and said, I can't go on like this. And that was after probably like the third trip to the bathroom. I then texted her back really quickly and said, I'm not doing something stupid, because it's like suddenly texting someone saying that when you're about to get on a plane and go to 38,000 feet sounds slightly questionable. And that was my big thing. It was like I was realizing I was living this life, but yeah, that taxi ride down was horrific because I didn't want to leave the house. I sort of panicked the whole way down. Anytime we got near services, I felt better, but I was traveling continuously and I was just struggling to operate. But on the outside, everyone thought I'd made it. You know, I think a few weeks before I'd been coming back from LA, and I'd sat next to Martin Freeman, not Morgan Freeman, Martin Freeman, but from The Hobbit, famous A-lister. And you just sort of sat next to him in the lounge. You know, I even talked to him, said that I was literally watching one of his TV shows when he came in. And everyone's like, you have like the most incredible thing, like you're so lucky and stuff like that. And I could think of nothing worse than I wanted to do. And we'll kind of come on to what I did about it in a bit, because I think that's where we can really sort of combine those stories together. But when I said about false starts was, it was sort of the year before I got married. We had these engagement photos, and they were horrific. Yeah, they were. I looked terrible. I was so overweight, but also I just you could see I had no confidence. I had badly fitting clothes. Yeah, I was sort of hunched over and all these things. So I spent 9 months, lost over 60 pounds of weight. You know, got myself looking good-ish for the wedding, and I was happy. But the only reason I touch on this is because I wasn't happy. I thought fixing that one thing was going to make me happy. I'd tied so much emotion to being overweight, to why I was unhappy and why it sort of had caused all these issues. And then you have that horrible thing of, well, I've lost weight now, why aren't I happy? And that then continued that spiral. So it wasn't until much later, this bigger aha. And then, like I said, we'll talk about what that kind of means for you afterwards. But I think that's important. We often do stuff that we think is going to be cure, but it's really not.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we chase the wrong things, but that's, again, it's because it's what we think is going to make us happy. And it's because we haven't tapped in and done the inner work and the reflection and the introspection to try and understand what it is that gets us to that point. I mean, we always say we have quite similar backgrounds in that sense of that high flying life and career, and how everyone from the outside looks in and they're like, how could someone like you not be happy in life? And I'd been for years been painted to have this kind of picture of me being ungrateful in life for everything I had, whereas I truly was grateful. And I remember one of my friends, quote unquote, said it to me, how could you not be grateful for what you have? And I was like, in my head, gratitude has nothing to do with it. It was a life that I didn't want for myself, and mine started, I think it literally, I mean, I was reading a book yesterday about how our childhood shapes our mindset, and kind of, I'd always grown up, my dad was always very much, you need to get the straight A's, you need to get the golden medal, you need to get and it just followed me. And it was either, if I didn't get the golden medal or the straight A's, then I was a failure. And I went from school to university. I started university at 16. I jumped a year. That's how hard I was kind of pushed. So I jumped a year. By 19, I was out of university, got married at 21, had my son at 22. And that was the path. I went from job to job, title to title, role to role. And that's what I thought life was, until I got to my kind of, maybe I was 32, probably about 32. And something just, I didn't know I was unhappy. I didn't. I knew that I wanted more, but I didn't know what it was. But I just felt this uneasiness in everything. And that's where my marriage started to break down. That's my relationship with my family, with everyone, was just horrific. And I started to build this bubble for myself, where I dug myself into this hole of negativity and anger and resentment to the world. And that journey was probably about 8 years. So 8 years of, probably from my late 20s until kind of my early 30s, was this buildup of, and I had in that space turned to drugs, turned to alcohol, turned to all, again, it's just that chase, finding something that is going to give us the answers. And I had no idea how to, I mean, self-development, personal development, self-awareness, all of that stuff, I had no clue about. I truly, truly didn't. And for me, I think the point is that I remember leaving one of my roles that I was in for about 7 years, and I had never felt so passionate about a job ever. And I started to feel this kind of, no, I need more, I need more, I need to be paid more. And I left this business. It was a startup, and it was incredible. I loved it. And since then, probably for the next 4 years, I was never happy in a role. Every time I joined, I was like, and I'd blame it on the boss, the business, the whatever else. But it was all down to, I mean, and I had this massive hatred that kind of tagged along as well. And it was just not normal. And every time I think about it now, it just makes me cringe, because people who live with that hatred or that anger, I mean, I actually feel sorry for, because it's that lack of awareness, I think, in terms of the self-awareness that gets us to that point, and the expectations that we set on everything around us. So for me, it was, I think, I didn't even do anything about it until my very last role, where my heart gave out, and I literally, never in my life did I feel mentally and physically incapable of even thinking or getting out of bed. That was the point that I had gotten to. And I'd isolated myself from society completely. I didn't speak to friends. I couldn't train. I didn't do anything. And that was the point where I was like, okay, something is very, very wrong. And that's where essentially my marriage ended as well. And it was, yeah, it's a weird one. It's because I can't say I had this aha moment. I think my biggest change stimulant or change factor was when I had my heart condition, because I think that was then that I made the decisions to start changing and to work on myself, because I realized that if I didn't do the work myself and on myself, I'd never be able to be happy. So I think that was my journey. And yeah, until today, I still have that same friend that, like, there's this kind of, oh, your life, and you've left the corporate world and created this amazing bit. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. So just keep to yourself. But yeah. And then our paths crossed, and then we shared stories, which I mean, for me was a big thing. So yeah, and here we are.
I think that's the bit. It's like that, finding the person you can resonate with. And yeah, we were both in a coaching group, and like, coaching's amazing. I was always very I thought self-centered, and then realized when you sort of look back and look at the breadcrumbs, I actually quite like developing people. I started a blog in my 20s about the lucky IT engineer, which says something about my mindset at the time. But then no one goes out and writes a blog if they don't want to give value to people. But the reason I sort of started this waffle was because there's a lot of coaches out there that they sell what's trendy. So they'll sell that they're an entrepreneur coach that's not a successful entrepreneur at the moment, or they're or they're a business coach that helps people scale businesses, or all these different areas where and coaching is a truly transformational thing. But I believe you have to have experienced it. And so if I'm going to work with a personal trainer, they either have to have lost weight, competed, been on like something that's aligned with a goal that you can tell that they have had some grind, had something to overcome in their life, rather than they just did the PT qualification because they like to work out. And it's that hardship that forms people. And I think that was why it was cool when we sort of got chatting, that there was stuff in common about CrossFit and eating and all that sort of good stuff, but then realizing that we'd both walked that similar path, and actually it resonates, and you can genuinely help people. I mean, there's nothing better than spending time on a call with someone, coaching them, and knowing how they felt and knowing how you got out, because a lot of coaching is about asking the right questions. But when you're struggling with, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's burnout, whether it's like that high performance, it's so ingrained in us that it's hard to see, it's hard to see that way through. Sometimes you need someone to pull you along as well as ask the right questions. So
100%. And I actually, like, you've brought up I mean, we all know the coaching space has boomed over the last 2 years, which is incredible. I mean, it is amazing. It shows how this industry is growing. But it's exactly what you said. There's a very thin line, very fine difference between just coaching someone by asking questions, which is essentially what coaching is, and being able to guide them through your personal experience and it turns into this relationship of not just coaching, asking questions. It becomes more of the guidance and the mentorship. And that is something that 1,000,000%. And when I think both of us, when we talk about this area of burnout and being able to operate at that optimal level, because we both want to, for ourselves, but for our families, for our kids. And when we're able to really talk about the things that have worked for us, that have changed us from being anxious about having a toilet accident and not being able to think and having and all of that stuff, I think there's a very, very big difference in the results and the transformation that happen. And that is why I think that's why our program has been so successful so far, both in the corporate world and with the individuals that we're helping. And it's such a broad thing to talk about how we change lives with Life by Design, which is our program. But it's until you actually experience it, I don't think it's even understandable, which is kind of why we created the BalanceQ scorecard, right? I mean, actually, that's a really good point. Jeremy, explain the BalanceQ and where that came from.
It was, I sort of find that people try and do one or two things. Like they'll chase happiness, so that'll be the me wanting to lose weight because I thought that I'd fix all my underlying issues, or like doing these exciting things, buying expensive holidays, big house, all that sort of stuff, like chasing that dream. Or they'll numb themselves, so whether that's alcohol, drugs, shutting themselves away, all those sorts of things. So, and it's usually because they don't really know what to do. They don't really know like an approach forward. And BalanceQ kind of came off the back of people needing to understand where they are at the moment across different areas of their life, because everything's interconnected. We can't excel at work and think that we'll deal with the home life later, or that, you know, we'll work 20 hours and the home life won't be affected, or conversely spending all your time sleeping because sleeping is an important thing to do, and they're not actually making any money. So it was really sort of, we go through school and we learn about IQ. So IQ is great. That's a way of testing the fact, you know, what year someone became king or queen and all this sort of stuff. You then get into your career and we start talking more about EQ, so your sort of emotional intelligence, how well you can interact with people, lead teams, stuff like that. I think that's getting earlier and earlier in people's lives now, which is amazing. So BalanceQ or balance quotient, balance equation, still kind of working on how that sort of brands out, is just giving people that ability to see where they are across different areas of their life, to see how they can balance out, really understand where they are. Because, me understanding that I had an underlying issue rather than just the weight would have helped me greatly at my journey. So my journey has covered so many different areas that is in the scorecard, but I didn't do them in an efficient way, because I did the like surface level stuff, because that's what you do all the surface level, then you realize there's something there, so you dig deeper. Whereas the idea of having like a scorecard and the methodologies and things like that is to really start from the beginning and then really see where you need to focus. I think I always say, it's like sitting on a wonky bar stool. If one leg's shorter than the other, so if we sort of think about the pillars of mindset, performance, well-being, and thinking about your direction, if one leg's shorter than the other, you spend so much energy trying to keep yourself upright, trying to keep yourself from falling over. And at some stage, you're either going to fall over and hurt yourself, or you're just going to get bloody exhausted. And it's the same thing. If you're not spreading, like, you will fall over.
And it's just like, I like cars, so this car analogy kind of works for me. If something in the axle is out of alignment, you aren't going to be able to drive. You are going to be able to drive, but it's going to be a very rugged and clunky drive. You're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be harder to get to where you want to. And I think that's exactly the same. BalanceQ was essentially put together because it was where we both started, I think, and we sat down and put together the key areas that started us on our journey of reflection and introspection to be able to get to where we are now. And it is one of the most powerful tools, and we can share some reviews that we've gotten so far from it, but we're getting about probably between 50 and 80 scorecards being filled out a day. And the responses have been phenomenal. And they cover the areas of our life that have the biggest impact if they're not in harmony with each other in terms of our progress and our success, however that is defined for everyone. So, I mean, it's something I think we're both beyond proud of creating. And I think we've got a lot more to grow with BalanceQ and what it stands for. So yeah, I'm super excited to see where that goes.
I think a really neat way of sort of explaining that intertwining, apart from wonky bar stools, is anyone that's had kids. So when you first have kids, they wake up a lot during the night and they'll cry, and you have to get up and feed them, and then you don't get a proper night's sleep, and you go to work the next day and you're in a foul mood, and everyone says, "What's the matter?" And you say, "Oh, I've got a newborn and it didn't sleep very well last night." And everyone goes, "Oh, sorry to hear that." And what do? They don't give you as much work. They treat you a bit better. They sort of lighten that load, right? But then you get a bit older and work's busy, and then you just forgo sleep. So you stay up late and you're socializing or you're watching Netflix or whatever it is, and then you still have to wake up the same time in the morning because you've got to go to work. And you'll be in a bad mood and you'll go into work in that bad mood. People will know you're in that bad mood. But you have no excuse now. So then you just come across as this negative person that's not very productive because you're tired. You'll probably eat too much because you're tired. You'll snap at people. You'll get home from work. You'll snap at the kids. And what you'll see is that improving the quality of your sleep, like duration of sleep, quality of sleep, tracking it, has an impact on your productivity at work. So therefore the money you can earn, the progress you can make, the opportunities that are going to come up, your relationships with the family, your ability to exercise better, your ability to manage your weight better. And you'll feel good. Like, think what it's like when you wake up after a good night's sleep. And that's like one little bit. And you suddenly like, hang on, my sleep has an impact on my productivity at work. And this is the big sort of aha people get. It's like, actually you do need to rest more to be better at work. And some of the things that we work with corporations on is an employee with a sense of well-being is 31% more productive. And someone with a high level of well-being will stay with a company 2 years longer on average than someone with a low level. And you suddenly realize that actually wellness in this it's actually quite good, because we're recording this on Mental Health Awareness Week. So by the time this goes out, which is in about 3 or 4 weeks, I'll be interested to know how many companies are still doing anything involving mental health awareness, because now the week's over. And companies are doing it because it's the right thing to do, but they're doing it for the wrong reason. And actually what they need to understand is there is massive benefits for the employee, the employer, the customer, and everything if they look at doing it. It's not just this giving back, like giving people pods to go sit in and stuff like that. It's so much more. And that's what I love about the scorecard. It's weaving in the interconnectedness of life and work.
100%. And what about kind of what we've created? And I'd love to be able to share with everyone what we've created without going on for another hour in Life by Design, because there is a certain structure and a framework that we follow, once again, that are kind of the building blocks, and everyone's goals are different. Everyone aspires to different things. Everyone feels fulfilled from different things. So there are aspects that are very much flexible, but how about you share a little bit about kind of the framework that we follow that applies to everyone in order to create that life of high performance, but also balance?
Yeah. And this is where I said, I sort of did this, but in the wrong order. And the number one thing is kind of understanding your values and that sort of vision that you have. And this is understanding what are the things that make you tick, what are the things that make you happy and keep you safe. So for example, I've got a couple. One is security. So when I did this reflection process, I found out about the need for security, and then also the education side, wanting to help people. So the idea is you really understand these, because if you're doing anything in life that goes against these, you're going to start to feel out of control. You'll start to feel resentful, and you'll see where that's driving your life, your career, and bits like that. So it's very, very foundational to everything you want to do. So that's like understanding your values. From there, we kind of help people with what that vision needs to look like. It's almost like what at the end of your life, what do you want to have achieved? So making sure you've got kind of that happy ending that you want, and then helping people with their goals. So I think a lot of people just do goal setting at work, but it's more important probably to set personal goals. Sorry,
in terms of, before I cut you off, I'm so sorry, but yes, 100%. You saying the goal setting at work, which is very much a task list as opposed to larger objectives, which actually, if you think about it as an ex kind of director level corporate employee, when you did annual objectives that had to align to business objectives and your department's leads objectives and all of that, how many people in the team actually understood how things align to a vision? Because on my experience was probably about 1% of people actually understood what that means. And I think that therein becomes a huge problem, in that everyone is a doer and the goal setting becomes this task list as opposed to something that is connected to a vision. And our vision as our personal lives are the things that we want to do and accomplish before we are on our deathbed and end up regretting our life. And that is that's how I see it. But yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're absolutely spot on, because you either have things that you can't impact that are somehow in your goals, or there's things you kind of don't care about. And yeah, it's that tie back to what's really important. And yeah, to that. So I think there's a challenge in life where people don't set big enough goals, big scary goals, because they're too scared to do it, or they set really easy ones and they achieve them and you didn't really develop yourself. So it's kind of having that assistance to set these really good goals. And then we help people with momentum steps. So basically it's mini goals, and these are wonderful because it's like that progress about how you want to. So say it was to get to a weight goal. It's like, what are all the little steps you need to do, whether it's like learning about nutrition, whether it's like finding a coach, finding a training program. Because standing at the start of a journey going, I need to lose 60 pounds and want to look good, that's bloody overwhelming. You need those little steps to get momentum, and that's where it's kind of unique. The next bit's really helping people with like efficiency, effectiveness, like productivity, because we're always going to be high performers. Just because there's a focus on life as well doesn't mean that you'll take your foot off the gas. I think if anyone's a high performer, you can't stop. You can just do it more strategically. So it's helping, how do you delegate work out? How do you structure your day? How do you kind of do all these things that you need to do in the most efficient way? If you're building a business or you've got coaching, like how to work out what to give to a VA, what to delegate, what to outsource. Because at the moment we're just exchanging time for money, and it's not going to serve us in the long term. The next bit is all around routines. And this is where we sort of talked about that value of sleep. It's like routines that genuinely serve your mind, your body. They'll fuel you, they'll keep you healthy and able to do this journey. And then my last step is always my favorite, and that's kind of the life side. So it's the really having that life. So you set these kind of goals, and it's making sure you've got hobbies, you've got interests, you're going on adventures, you're doing things that kind of give you that true fulfillment in life. And I always love having a conversation with someone about one of the steps is get a hobby, and you get this blank look. And it's like, hobbies are so powerful for your personal well-being, but also your career development, because you're able to switch off, you're able to switch between the two. So that's my favorite step.
100%. The hobbies, and you are the hobby master. You truly are. For me, I find a lot of fascination in more of the psychological side and the behavioral modification side. So I really love geeking out on the kind of the reasoning as to why we think a certain way, and more the mental habits as opposed to the daily and routine habits. So, and I think that works in so well for us, because it's kind of, we focus on the different areas as well. So we complement each other. And I think that's down to, again, areas that we're both passionate about or what we find interesting. So that is super interesting. And I think based on the feedback we've heard, I think works in people's favor, because we kind of share and they get to experience both of us at the same time. So
yeah, and it's that differing viewpoint, differing thing, and again it goes back to that value of experience, and I think that's why it's important. The hobbies bit very much came about because my mum used to say every Christmas, it's like, what shall I get you? You don't seem to do anything almost. And I never really understood the power of it. I was too busy to have a hobby and all this sort of stuff. And then since doing this, the number one question I get asked, and we covered it on the podcast, was like, what's a hobby? Or I don't know what to do. And it's funny now coaching people, I'm like, have you thought of, and I keep using a bloody welding course, and I don't know why, as an example. I feel like maybe there's some pent up desire there. But one of the guys is potentially gonna like look at making a fire pit for the garden, or like a log holder or something. And there's something about like, you made that, like the hobby, whether it's like going and doing a hobby where you meet new people, or you actually create something with your hands, whether it's like gardening or cooking or something. There's like something special about like eating some food that you cooked from scratch, and it's not like just not like just making a curry, but like you really put some effort into it. So yeah, I love that. It's weird how these things come about, but
you know what, I mean, lockdown gave me a hobby that I never thought myself. So one of my hidden pleasures, secret pleasures, is that I discovered as a child actually is knitting. It calms my mind. I don't even know, I think I have them somewhere, but over lockdown I got into gardening, and I think I mentioned this on one of the other episodes, but I was so proud of the trees. Like when I moved back to London last week, all I could think of was my bloody plants that I grew from seeds, and they're now trees. And everyone was laughing at me because I'm like, I built those, I created my garden. And there is something about that where this pride and this fulfillment, and something as small as a plant, I mean, could bring me this great pleasure. I'm like, yep, always grateful.
Cool. I think we have not done this one to death, but I think we've given a lot of background to it. I think if you're listening, you probably need to go grab another coffee and digest, but
or go do the BalanceQ scorecard.
You got ahead of me, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, the link will be in the notes, in the description of the thing, so please go take it in. It's pretty quick. I think it's less than 3 minutes is the average time. You can get an individualized score, so it's tailor-made for you with some individualized advice. And the other thing to announce on this one is we're realizing that Facebook's not the route forward for a lot of people. It's a bit stagnant, it's a bit stale. So we're actually launching a Telegram channel. I assume it's called a channel. And for those that don't know, Telegram is an app where it's basically a chat app that's a lot more engaging. It's easier to get notifications and put content out there. I didn't know what it was. I used to think it was a scam thing, but it's a proper amazing platform. So we're gonna put the link in the show notes as well. Please come join us. We're going to be sharing regular content. It will mainly be asking around questions that you've got that we can create content for, or we can answer them, or it's going to be providing some of the daily insights we've got around productivity hacks, some little mindset hacks and things you can do. Any links out to resources, ebooks, anything like that, they'll all be in there. So it's a fantastic place to go and interact with like-minded people.
And I can't wait till we start welcoming people into our Telegram channel. Yes, channel. It is a channel. But yeah, I mean, just to put out there as well, our doors are always open. Our intake to Life by Design is, we're having to do intake sessions now. So we've got links to the application forms. The starting point always is the BalanceQ scorecard to see where you sit and if you're really serious about kind of making changes in your life. And if you are, please find the links in our social media profiles, apply to the program, and just have a chat with us. Because at the end of the day, and we offer this at the end of the BalanceQ scorecard, we offer a 30-minute strategy session to sit down and talk about where you're at and what your quick wins are and can be if you're very serious about making a change. So with that said, can't wait to see you on Telegram. So yeah.
Have an amazing day, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you very much for listening. If you like the episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend or a colleague, and leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you're using. We read them all, and it really helps us get the insights and the guidance on where to take the program forward. And also connect with us on social media. Share your journey with us for your high performing and balanced life. And lastly, remember to take the BalanceQ scorecard. The link will be in the show notes. And BalanceQ, or BQ, is your balance quotient. It's your ability to live this high performing and balanced life, both in your personal and professional career. And when you take the scorecard, you get actionable insights, you get the steps that you can take to really take yourself on this journey. So with that, we thank you very much for listening and look forward to you listening on a future episode, and have an amazing day.